Hi, Modern Art class. Here is your syllabus. You can download a copy, and I just wanted to talk through it with you and tell you the basics. The particular syllabus we're looking at here is for summer, but if you're taking my fall class or my spring class, don't worry, everything's pretty much the same except for the due dates. So here's the first very important thing, which is my email address. Make sure to email me anytime if you have questions. Obviously, I don't check email in the middle of the night, but I'm not bothered if you send me a late night email or a weekend email. I'll get back to them when I can. I usually get back to emails within about 24 hours. So, definitely send me a note if you have any issues. This is the course description that I'm pointing at here. It tells you just basically what the course covers, and you can read it on your own, but I'll just summarize it for you. So this is a course in modern art history. So it's the history of the modern period, and you'll learn about art that's mostly from the Western world, so mostly Europe and the USA. The modern period is roughly 1860 through 1960. Now, people will kind of argue what period it is, like where it starts and where it ends. So you'll hear different stories within 10 or 20 years, but roughly 1860 to 1960. In that 100-year or so period, we'll be looking at lots of different art movements and talking about some of the historical contexts and the things that were affecting those art movements. We'll also talk about the biographies of some of the artists. Overall, I think it's a really interesting class, and you'll learn a lot about art and the period itself and what was going on historically. So your coursework, it's going to consist of reading articles, watching videos, and then creating either visual or written projects that will help you reflect on what you've learned. You'll also have tests to check and make sure that you understood all of the readings correctly. If you're in my summer class, I do want to warn you that it's double speed. So it's a very fast class. You'll end up basically having 2 regular weeks in each of your weeks. My regular session, so fall and spring classes, have 1 lesson per week. In summer, you have 2 lessons per week. So just keep in mind, if you're in my summer class, you're going to need to make sure to be online almost every day and plan on doing a lot of reading each day and really pacing yourself so that you can get everything done. I know that sounded kind of scary. You'll probably do great. You'll just have to, put in a little bit more time since it's double speed. Here's what I want you to learn in this class. So by that I mean, like, here are the main goals for what I want you to come away with if you finish the class successfully. I want you to be able to recognize and describe what the modern period is and how it's different from the rest of art history. I also want you to be able to recognize the styles of different artists. So famous artists, some not so famous, basically all the artists who are important in this period, and then also a few that I think are important that are a little lesser known. You'll be able to recognize their style. You'll be able to say a little bit about them. You'll also be able to pick out styles. So when you go to an art museum after this class, you should be able to look at something across the room and just tell what style it's in. Media means like how it's made, painting, sculpture, printmaking. You'll be able to recognize those differences. And of course, all the different art movements, so how art changes, what the big trends are in the modern period, and what are their distinct characteristics. So you'll be able to recognize all that stuff. You'll also be able to make connections between art from this period and things that were going on in society, in culture, and in history. You'll also get a lot of practice finding and using reputable research sources. So that is going to be an important part of some of your projects and also some of the essay questions that you'll be answering it on tests. You'll end up really getting a lot of good practice at how to use sources in your writing. And of course, that can be helpful for any class that involves writing, not just an art history class. And then also, pardon that text I just got, you'll learn how to use the vocabulary of the art historian when you write and speak about art. So you'll be able to use the kinds of specialized language that you'll see in art history books or hear when you listen to art historians in the videos that I share. So that's basically what I want you to learn in this class. There's also some language here where it says, here is how the fine art department at Mesa describes the thing you will learn. This is basically saying the same thing, but this is the art department's language. It's a little bit less specific. I'll leave it to you to read that over if you want, but this says everything you'll need in terms of what you're expected to learn. So I'm going to skip this purple section. Okay, what you need to do every week. You'll need to log into the class regularly. Since I'm not going to be seeing you, I'll be sending you reminders. So I'll send you emails through the online class, reminding you of what's due each week. So make sure you're not just logging into the class, but also checking your email. You'll need to read and take notes on the readings for the week. You'll need to participate in discussion assignments. If you're in my summer class, you'll have probably 2 per week. If you're in my regular session class during fall or spring, you'll have 1 per week. If you're in my summer class, you'll have a test every 2 weeks. And if you're in the fall or spring class, you'll have a test every 4 weeks. And you'll complete a project at that point too. So I know that sounded a little confusing how I said it. It's all going to make sense once you start the class. But essentially, you'll have a lesson each week or 2 lessons each week, depending on if you're in summer or not. You'll read and take notes on them. You'll answer a discussion question and talk about the discussion question with your peers. And then after every 3 lessons, you'll have a test and a project. What you will read, so there's a lot of reading provided online. Much of it I wrote. So I wrote these kind of, maybe 15 to 20 page lectures for most of the lessons. Some of them are a little bit shorter. So it's my writing, but within the writing, I link to articles and videos from other sources. So my writing, as well as the links, the articles and videos, that's what's considered your reading. It basically replaces your textbook. The reason I've done that is really because textbooks are very expensive for art history, and I wanted to make sure that you could save money, but also because textbooks, they take a long time to publish and update, and in a lot of cases, they end up being a little old-fashioned. They don't always include as many women artists, for example. They don't necessarily adjust to kind of show new research. So besides trying to save you money, I'm giving you online readings that I keep updated just because it's a little easier to stay current. With that said, feel free to actually get a modern textbook as well, just to flip through on your own. That is definitely going to help if you want, but it is not required. My late policy is that every student is going to have, due dates that they have to follow. And the general rule is that I don't accept late work. But I do offer 2 late passes for emergencies. So basically, you get to have 2 times where maybe you had an emergency or just something happens where you get to turn in something late. But only 2 times. And then after that, I don't accept anything late. I do keep track of those. So every time you turn in something late, I'll make a note of it. Since you're in my online class, you'll see that the due dates have times. So it'll be like 11:59 p.m. If you're like 2 minutes late or 5 minutes late or something like that because it's taking your document a long time to upload, that is not a big deal. If it's just a few minutes, like within 10 minutes late, that's a grace period, so don't worry about it. That won't count for one of your late passes. But if you're longer than that, like you turn it in the next day or whatever, I'll mark it down as a late pass, and then after 2, I'll stop taking late work. In terms of what you'll be graded on, here are the basics. So you'll have what I'm calling in-class writing and activities. That's essentially your weekly discussion questions that you'll do online. So I'm calling it in class because you'll be doing those within the online class, and you'll have them pretty much every lesson. For summer students, you'll have them pretty much twice per lesson. You'll have a take-home exam after every 3 study guides. So after every 3 lessons, you'll have an exam. This is a little out of date. Well, no, that's correct. Never mind. So anyway, yes, you'll have a test after every 3 lessons. And then you'll also have a multi-option project after every 3 lessons. By multi-option, I mean you get to pick between writing a paper, making an artwork, or writing a short story. I have a video that explains this whole project online, and then also there's written instructions. So all of this stuff, you have all the info that you'll need on Canvas, but that's basically what it is. Here's the grade breakdown. So there's 4 total exams worth 500 points. So that's like 50% of your total grade. The projects are worth 300 points. There's 4 of them total. That's 30% of your grade. And then the weekly discussions, that's what I'm calling in-class activities. There's 10 of them, and that will be 200 points. So your total for the semester is 1,000. These weekly assignments, which are called in-class graded activities, you see it says that there's 10 total, and that's true, but there's actually 13 online. So you've got 13 chances to do these, and only 10 of them are going to be required. That means that any extra ones you do, you get extra credit for. So that's the only extra credit in this class, but it definitely helps since it's, 3 extra assignments. So basically, do all of these if you possibly can. Do each one for every lesson, and then you're going to have extra credit. But if you miss a few, it's not going to hurt you unless you miss more than 3. Then it'll start hurting you. Okay, so total points for the semester are 1,000. When you look in your gradebook on Canvas, you'll see the individual points for everything, but always be dividing it by 1,000. If you have a disability or think that you need accommodations, make sure to contact DSPS. You can also, of course, email me, or if it's during the regular semester, come to my office hours and I can help you navigate the system if you need it. DSPS can give you official letters to give to your professors so that you can get accommodations, but I'm also willing to accommodate people in reasonable ways if they need it. So, feel free to just ask me over email if you need something and I'll figure out if I can help. Okay, so here's your topics for each week of the class. Now, this is for the summer class, but it's going to be similar. And you'll see it also listed if you're in my fall or spring class. Basically, it just tells you what we're going to cover each class. It says this online too. I don't think you're ever going to really need to look at this, but just in case you wanted to, you can. And then I've got all of your due dates. I've also got this separately on the online class, but it basically is just a table with when everything is due. So that's your syllabus. Don't go yet though. I want to show you one more thing. Here's what the actual online class looks like. Now, I know you've already been in here since you found this video, but I wanted to show you that if you click on modules, so I'm clicking on modules now, you can scroll down. So I'm scrolling, and you see it's got the whole class in here already. I don't always recommend that students work ahead, but you can if you want to. Sometimes I think it's good to work a little bit ahead if you know you're going to be busy coming up. Everything's already going to be here for you. So, for example, if you're like, oh, I'm going to be out of town week 4, you can scroll to week 4, see what's going to happen week 4, and maybe start on it during week 3 so that you can be sure you can catch up. If it doesn't look like this when you open it, it might be because of these little arrows. You see that they can collapse. So if you're like, wait, where is all this stuff? Just click there and it'll open. If you're ever lost, like you're looking at different sections of the class and then it takes you to a page and you're like, where am I? Just go back to this menu, click on modules, and then you can scroll down again and find where you're supposed to be. Also in the Welcome to Class module, I've got your syllabus and I've got your due dates sheet, which is always going to be there. You can also click on it here and get a PDF version, so you can always flip back to that if you need help. Okay, so that's your syllabus.